Imagine you are carrying a heavy sack of stones. You have been carrying it for so long that the straps have dug deep grooves into your shoulders. You sleep with it. You wake with it. You eat with it. The sack contains every mistake you have ever made, every harsh word spoken to you, every moment of shame, and every loss. We all carry this sack. We call it the past. And often, we believe the only way to be free is to fix what is inside. We think we must reach in, polish the stones, rearrange them, or somehow turn them into gold. We spend our lives looking backward, trying to edit a story that has already been written. We exhaust ourselves trying to start over by fixing the unfixable. But there is another way, a way that does not require a time machine, a way that does not require you to be perfect. 2,500 years ago, in the forests of northern India, a man woke up. He saw that the sack was heavy, yes, but he also saw something that no one else had seen. You are allowed to put it down. This is the story of that discovery. This is a journey into the heart of the Buddha's teaching on renewal, not as a project of self-improvement, but as a radical act of letting go. To understand the medicine, we must first understand the disease. To understand the Buddha's freedom, we must look at the cage he was born into. Let us drift back in time. Long before the skyscrapers and the digital noise of our world, to the plains of the Ganges River, 25 centuries ago. The air smells of dust, jasmine, and wood smoke. This was the Vedic age. It was a time of immense beauty, but also of immense anxiety. The people of this time believed that the universe was a fragile cosmic machine that was constantly running out of fuel. They believed that the sun would not rise, the rains would not fall, and the crops would not grow unless they, the humans, kept the machine running. And how did they keep it running? With fire. Day and night, the Brahmin priests chanted ancient hymns. They poured milk, butter, and grain into roaring sacred fires. They believed this smoke fed the gods. It was a transaction. I give to you, O Agni, god of fire, so that you will give rain and life to us. Imagine the pressure. If you made a mistake in the chant, if you missed a syllable, the ritual failed. The cosmos might wobble. Chaos might enter. Life in ancient India was driven by a deep fear that things were falling apart, and that it was our job to hold them together through sheer willpower and rigid order. Society mirrored this rigidity. You were born into a caste, a box. If your father was a warrior, you were a warrior. If your father was a servant, you were a servant. Your destiny was written before you took your first breath. There was no starting over. There was only duty. It felt heavy. It felt like a trap. And in the midst of this orderly, suffocating world, a new sound began to rise. Not the sound of chanting, but the sound of footsteps walking away. Young men and women began to leave the cities. They left the fire rituals. They left their arranged marriages and their predictable futures. They walked into the wild forests. They were called Shramanas, the strivers, the wanderers. They were looking for something that fire sacrifices could not give them. They were looking for an end to the anxiety. They were asking the question that still haunts us today. Is this it? Is life just a cycle of working, worrying, aging, and dying? Is there no way out? Among them was a young man named Siddhartha Gautama. We often think of the Buddha as a god, sitting high on a lotus throne. But before he was the Buddha, he was just a human being who was deeply troubled by the problem of existence. He had tried the path of worldly success. He was a prince. He had palaces for the summer, palaces for the winter. He had fine clothes, music, and power. He had what we would call the perfect life, and he realized it was a lie. He saw that no matter how high the wall of the palace was, it could not keep out sickness. It could not keep out old age. It could not keep out death. He realized that building a successful life based on things that change is like building a house on a frozen river. When the spring comes, the ice melts and the house sinks. So he left. He cut off his hair. He traded his silk robes for rags. He stepped into the forest to start over. But at first, he made the mistake that many of us make. He thought starting over meant going to the other extreme. He thought if pleasure was the trap, then pain must be the key. For 6 years, he starved himself. He held his breath until he nearly fainted. He punished his body, thinking he could force his mind to be free. He was trying to fix himself through willpower. He was trying to conquer the human condition by declaring war on it. It didn't work. He ended up frail, collapsed on the bank of a river, no closer to peace than when he started. And there, under the cool shade of a rose apple tree, he remembered something. He remembered a moment from his childhood, a moment of effortless peace, watching his father work in the fields. He hadn't been trying to be holy. He hadn't been trying to fix anything. He had just been present. He realized he didn't need to destroy himself to be free. He needed to understand himself. He ate a bowl of rice milk. He sat down under the bodhi tree, and he made a resolve. I will not stand up until I understand why we suffer and how we can begin again. As the morning star rose, the Buddha opened his eyes. He had woken up. What did he see? He saw that our greatest suffering comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of the shape of reality. In the modern world, we are taught that life is a straight line. You are born at point A, you travel to point B, which is death. Along this line, you are supposed to accumulate things. You are supposed to gather trophies, money, relationships, and experiences. If the line goes up, we call it success. If the line goes down, we call it failure. When we see life as a line, starting over is terrifying. It feels like falling backward. It feels like losing ground. If you are 30 or 40 or 60 and you have to start over, you feel like you are behind schedule. You panic. But the Buddha saw that reality is not a line. It is a circle. It is a cycle. He called it Samsara, the wandering on. Look at nature. The seasons do not move in a straight line, they circle. Winter does not fail to become spring, it yields to it. The tide does not fail when it goes out. It is simply preparing to come back in. The Buddha taught that our lives are a series of rising and falling waves. We gain and we lose. We come together and we fall apart. We are born and we die. When you understand this, the pressure lifts. You realize that a downward phase in your life, a divorce, a job loss, a relapse, is not a mistake. It is not a deviation from the plan. It is part of the rhythm of the ocean. You haven't fallen off the path. You are just in the trough of the wave. And the nature of the trough is that it rises again. This is the first lesson of renewal. You are not a static object that needs to be fixed. You are a flowing process. You are a river, and you cannot step into the same river twice. So if we are a river, why does it hurt so much? Why does the past feel so heavy? The Buddha told a story, a parable that cuts to the bone of our human experience. It is known as the parable of the two arrows. He asked his students, if a person is struck by an arrow in battle, is it painful? They answered, yes, Lord, it is agonizing. Then he asked, now suppose that same person is struck by a second arrow, right in the exact same wound. Would that be worse? Much worse, Lord, they said. The pain would be unbearable. The Buddha smiled and said, in life, we cannot avoid the first arrow. The first arrow is the unavoidable pain of being human. It is the fact that bodies get sick. It is the fact that people we love will eventually leave us. It is the fact that we will make mistakes. It is the business failure. It is the breakup. It is the diagnosis. We cannot stop the first arrow. It is shot by the world. But the second arrow is the one we shoot at ourselves. The second arrow is our reaction to the pain. It is the voice that says, why did this happen to me? I am such a failure. I will never be happy again. This isn't fair. The first arrow is physical or circumstantial. The second arrow is mental. And the Buddha said that for most of us, the second arrow is far, far more painful than the first. We take a moment of pain, a mistake we made 10 years ago, and we replay it. We stab ourselves with it over and over, every single day. The event lasted 5 minutes, but the suffering has lasted 10 years. Beginning again, in the Buddhist sense, does not mean fixing the first arrow. You cannot unbreak the glass. You cannot unsay the angry word. Beginning again means pulling out the second arrow. It means looking at the mess on the floor and saying, this happened. It is sad. It is painful. But I will not add to the suffering by hating myself for it. When you stop shooting the second arrow, you free up an enormous amount of energy. Energy that was used for guilt and shame is suddenly available for healing. The Buddha once described the human mind as a house on fire. All is burning, he said in his famous fire sermon. The eye is burning, forms are burning, the mind is burning. Burning with what? Burning with the fire of greed, burning with the fire of hatred, burning with the fire of delusion. When we are in a state of regret, we are burning. We are reliving the heat of the past. But the Buddha offered a way to cool the flames. He called it nibbana, nirvana. The word doesn't mean heaven. It literally means cooling down or blowing out, like a candle flame being blown out. How do we cool down the past? We do it through a radical practice called Yanasamanasikara, wise attention. We stop asking why, and we start asking what. Instead of asking, why am I like this? Why did I fail? Which leads to a spiral of shame, we ask, what is happening right now? Right now, there is a feeling of tightness in the chest. Right now, there is a thought about yesterday. Right now, there is fear. When you look at your monsters directly, with clear eyes, they shrink. You realize that the past does not exist in the physical world. You cannot show me the past. You cannot put it in a box. It exists only as a memory firing in your brain right now. If you are remembering a mistake from 10 years ago, that memory is happening now. And because it is happening now, you have power over it. You can choose how to relate to it. You can say to the memory, I see you. You are a ghost. You have no power over me. This brings us to the deepest, most challenging part of the Buddha's teaching on renewal. It is the teaching of anatta, not self. Usually, when we want to start over, we think about reinventing ourselves. We want to build a new me, a fitter, richer, calmer, better me. But the Buddha suggests that the me you are trying to improve is actually the problem. Imagine a whirlpool in a river. The water is constantly flowing through it. The whirlpool has a shape, a location, and a name. But is the whirlpool a solid thing? No, it is just a pattern of movement. If you try to grab the whirlpool, you just get wet hands. You are like the whirlpool. You are a pattern of thoughts, feelings, memories, and physical sensations that is constantly flowing. The suffering comes when we try to freeze the whirlpool. We want to be a solid, permanent statue of success. The Buddha teaches that true renewal comes not from building a better self, but from seeing through the illusion of the self. When you realize that you are not your story, you are free to change your story. You are not an angry person. You are a person who is experiencing anger right now. You are not a failure. You are a person experiencing a loss right now. Do you feel the difference? The labels fall off. The box opens. This is why the Buddha's path is so gentle. It doesn't demand that you become a superstar. It simply asks you to wake up to the flow. So, how do we practice this? How do we bring this philosophy down from the clouds and into our kitchen, our office, our commute? The Buddha gave us very practical tools. The first is the practice of sati, mindfulness. Mindfulness is the reset button. Every time you drift into the past, every time you get lost in a fantasy about the future, you gently bring your attention back to the breath, back to the sensation of your feet on the floor, back to the sounds in the room. The moment you notice you were lost, you have already found yourself. That moment of noticing is the new beginning. You don't have to scold yourself. You don't have to say, "Oh, I'm a bad meditator." You just return. The Buddha said, just as a cowherd watches over his cows, watching them graze, not letting them wander into the crops, so too you watch over your mind. If a cow wanders off, the cowherd doesn't hate the cow. He doesn't kill the cow. He just gently guides it back. Be that gentle with your own mind. The second tool is metta, loving kindness. We often think of loving kindness as something we give to others. But to begin again, you must give it to yourself. There is a Pali phrase, Samsara bhavantu sukhitata. May all beings be happy. You are one of those beings. You are included in all beings. Try this. When you make a mistake, instead of the whip, try the hand. Imagine placing a hand on your own shoulder. Say to yourself, "It is okay. You are human. You are learning. Let's try again." This is not weakness. This is the fuel for resilience. A child learns to walk by falling down. If the child yelled at herself every time she fell, she would never walk. She would just sit on the floor and cry. She walks because she gets up. Falling is not the failure. Staying down is the choice. Let me tell you a story from the time of the Buddha. There was a monk named Channa. Channa had been the prince's servant before he became the Buddha. He was arrogant. He thought, "I was with the Buddha from the beginning. I know more than anyone." Because of his pride, he couldn't make progress. He was stuck. The other monks avoided him. He became isolated and bitter. After the Buddha passed away, Channa was desperate. He realized he had wasted his opportunity. He went to the wise elder Ananda and begged for help. "I am lost," he said. "Please teach me." He was ready to start over, but he had to drop his pride first. He had to admit he was broken. Ananda didn't scold him. He taught him the Dhamma with compassion. And Channa, the arrogant servant, became an enlightened arahant. It is never too late. In the Buddhist tradition, there is no such thing as too old or too damaged. As long as you are breathing, there is the potential for awakening. The breath is the ultimate teacher of renewal. Look at it. You inhale, that is birth. You pause, that is life. You exhale, that is death. And then you inhale again. You are born, and you die thousands of times a day. Why do you hold onto the you of 10 years ago when the you of 10 seconds ago is already gone? Let it go. Let the breath carry it away. As we come to the end of this journey, I invite you to look at where you are right now. Look at your hands. Look at the room around you. Listen to the silence beneath these words. This moment is fresh. It has never happened before in the history of the universe. It is clean. It is unwritten. The Buddha's teaching is an invitation to step out of the burning house of the past and into the cool air of the present. It is an invitation to put down the heavy sack of stones. You do not have to be who you were yesterday. You do not have to be who you were 5 minutes ago. The sun is rising. The cycle is turning. The wave is rising from the ocean once more. Take a deep breath and begin. We have spoken about the burden of the past in general terms, the mistakes, the regrets, the heavy sack of stones. But some of you might be thinking, you do not understand. My sack is not just heavy. It is stained. I have done things that cannot be forgiven. I have caused irreversible harm. This is the darkest shadow of the human heart, the belief that we are too far gone, the belief that we are monsters, unworthy of starting over. To answer this, we must journey into one of the most violent and profound stories in the Buddhist tradition. It is the story of a man named Angulimala. His name is now famous, but in the time of the Buddha, it was a name whispered in terror. Angulimala was a bandit, a serial killer. He lived in the Jalini forest, and he had taken a vow to kill 1,000 people. To keep count, he cut off a finger from each victim and strung it on a garland around his neck. Hence his name, Finger Garland. He had killed 999 people. He was a man drowning in blood. The king's army was afraid to enter the forest. Imagine the mind of such a man. The paranoia, the adrenaline, the complete severance of all human connection. He was not just a criminal, he was a force of destruction. In our modern world, we would lock him away forever. We would say he is beyond redemption. But the Buddha saw him differently. One morning, the Buddha wrapped his robes around him and walked silently into that dangerous forest. He walked calmly, without a weapon, without fear. Angulimala saw him. He thought, here is number 1,000. He drew his sword. He ran after the monk. Angulimala was a strong man, a fast runner. But a strange thing happened. No matter how fast he ran, sweating, gasping, muscles burning, he could not catch up to the Buddha, who was walking at a normal, peaceful pace. It was a miracle, yes, but it was also a psychological reality. The chaos of violence can never catch up to the stillness of peace. Finally, exhausted and terrified, Angulimala screamed, "Stop! Monk, stop!" The Buddha turned. He looked at the killer with eyes that held no judgment, only infinite clarity. He said, "I have stopped, Angulimala. You are the one who is running." The bandit was confused. "What do you mean? You are moving. I am standing still." The Buddha replied, "I have stopped harming living beings. I have stopped grasping. I have stopped the cycle of violence. You are running towards hell. You are running from your own heart." In that moment, the sword fell from Angulimala's hand. Why? Because for the first time in years, Someone saw him not as a monster, but as a human being in pain. The Buddha did not reflect his violence back at him. He reflected peace, and in that reflection, Angulimala saw a way out. He fell to his knees. He asked to become a monk, and the Buddha simply said, "Come, bhikkhu." But the Buddha's teaching is realistic. It deals with cause and effect. Starting over does not mean the world instantly forgives you. Angulimala became a monk. He shaved his head. He meditated. But when he walked into the village to beg for alms, the people remembered. They did not see a monk. They saw the murderer of their sons and fathers. They threw stones at him. They beat him with sticks. He would return to the monastery with his head broken, blood flowing down his robes, his bowl shattered. He went to the Buddha in pain, and the Buddha did not say, "This is unfair." He did not say, "I will protect you." The Buddha said, "Bear it, Brahman, bear it." He explained, "You are experiencing here and now the fruit of actions that would have burned you in hell for thousands of years. This is a crucial lesson in renewal. Starting over does not mean erasing the consequences of the past. It means changing how we meet those consequences." Angulimala did not get angry at the villagers. He understood their pain. He accepted the stones as the payment of a debt. He had stopped shooting the second arrow. He took the pain of the stones, the first arrow, without the suffering of hatred. And because he met hatred with love, because he met violence with patience, he burned through his karma. He became an arahant, a fully enlightened being. The man who wore a garland of fingers became a saint who would not harm a fly. If Angulimala can begin again, what is stopping you? There is another barrier to renewal, perhaps even heavier than guilt. It is grief. When we lose everything we love, the world feels broken. We feel that starting over is a betrayal of those we lost. We feel that happiness is no longer possible or even permissible. Let us speak of Padakara. Padakara was a woman who experienced a tragedy so compounded, so absolute, that it shatters the heart just to recount it. In a single storm-swept night, and the day that followed, she lost her husband to a snake bite, her 2 young children to the river and a hawk, and her parents and brother to a house collapse. She lost everyone. Her mind snapped. She tore off her clothes. She wandered the streets, wailing, naked, covered in filth. People threw trash at her. They called her the mad woman. She was not looking for enlightenment. She was just a human being crushed by the weight of samsara. She eventually wandered into the Jeta Grove, where the Buddha was teaching. The congregation tried to stop her, disgusted by her nakedness. But the Buddha said, "Do not stop her." As she approached, his presence acted like a cool rain on a fire. He looked at her with compassion and said, "Sister, regain your mindfulness." Those words cut through the madness. "Sister, regain your mindfulness." Someone threw her a cloak. She covered herself. She fell at his feet and wept, telling him her story. "Lord, help me. I have lost everything." The Buddha did not offer platitudes. He did not say, "They are in a better place." He said, "Patakara, the waters of the 4 great oceans are small compared to the tears you have wept in your long journey through lives. Why do you still delay?" He shifted her focus from the specific tragedy of this life to the universal tragedy of existence. He showed her that loss is not a personal punishment. It is the nature of holding onto things that are impermanent. Patakara became a nun. One day, she was washing her feet. She watched the water flow over her foot and sink into the earth. Then she poured more water, and it flowed a little further before sinking in. She realized, "My children were like the first water sinking into the earth quickly. My husband was like the second water. My parents were like the third. All lives, long or short, sink into the earth." In that simple moment of watching water, she let go. The grief evaporated. She became enlightened. She later became the master of the nuns, a great teacher of comfort to those who were grieving. She did not fix her past. She could not bring her family back, but she transformed her grief into wisdom. She began again, not as a mother or a wife, but as a light for the world. How is this transformation possible? It is possible because of how the Buddha redefined Kamma, karma. In the Buddha's time, many believed that karma was a prison. They thought your past actions determined everything about your present life. If you were poor or sick or unhappy, it was because of what you did in a past life, and there was nothing you could do about it. This is fatalism. The Buddha rejected this. He taught that Kamma is not just the result of the past. It is the action of the present. Think of a garden. The soil is your past Kamma. It is the conditions you are born into, your body, your family, your temperament. You cannot change the soil right now, but the seed is your present action, cetana, intention. You can plant a poison seed in good soil, and you will get poison. You can plant a medicine seed in poor soil, and you will get medicine. This is the most empowering teaching of Buddhism. It means you are not a victim of your history. You are the gardener of your future. Every moment is a choice. Right now, as you listen to this, you are creating Kamma. Are you listening with anger? That is dark Kamma. Are you listening with an open heart? That is bright Kamma. Are you listening with wisdom? That is the Kamma that leads to freedom. Starting over is simply the act of planting a new seed. It doesn't matter if the field was full of weeds yesterday. If you plant a mango seed today, you are starting a mango tree. However, even when we want to plant new seeds, we get stuck. The Buddha identified 5 mental mud pits that trap us. He called them the 5 hindrances. The one that stops us from starting over is called udekakakaka. Restlessness and remorse. It is the mind that vibrates. It looks back and says, I shouldn't have done that. It looks forward and says, what if I fail again? It is like a fish thrown onto dry land, thrashing about. When we are caught in remorse, we think we are being responsible. We think, if I feel bad enough about my mistake, maybe I can pay for it. But the Buddha taught that guilt is not a virtue. Guilt is a form of aversion. It is self-hatred, and you cannot build a happy life on a foundation of self-hatred. So, how do we escape this trap? We escape it by finding satisfaction in the good we are doing right now. If you made a mistake yesterday, do a good deed today. Give a meal to someone, help a friend, meditate for 5 minutes, then rejoice in that action. Say to yourself, yes, I made a mistake, but look, I am also capable of kindness. I am also capable of generosity. You dilute the dark ink of the past by pouring in the clear water of present goodness. Finally, we come to a word that scares many of us. Renunciation, KAMMA. We hear renunciation, and we think of giving up everything fun. We think of eating dry bread and sitting in a cave. We think starting over means a life of deprivation. But in Buddhism, renunciation is not about deprivation. It is about unburdening. Imagine you are carrying 5 heavy bags of groceries. Your arms are shaking. Your fingers are numb. Suddenly, you drop the bags. What do you feel? Do you feel deprived of the bags? No, you feel relief. You feel light. The blood rushes back into your arms. That relief is the joy of renunciation. There was a monk named Badia. Before he became a monk, he was a king. He had guards, wealth, and palaces, but he was always anxious. He couldn't sleep, terrified of assassins or thieves. After he became a monk, he lived in the forest. He had nothing but a robe and a bowl. One night, sitting under a tree, he shouted out loud, "Aho Sukham, Aho Sukham." What bliss, what bliss. The other monks asked him, "What are you shouting about?" He said, "When I was a king, I had guards everywhere, but I was fearful. Now, alone in this forest, I have nothing to protect. I have nothing to lose. I live like a deer, free and without anxiety." Starting over often means simplifying. It means looking at the clutter of your life, the clutter of things, the clutter of obligations, the clutter of toxic relationships, and asking, do I need to carry this? Every time you say no to something that drains you, you are saying yes to your own peace. You are dropping a bag. We have traveled a long way together. We have looked at history, psychology, and the stories of the saints. But the ultimate secret of renewal is something the Buddha asked us to remember every single day. Maranasati, mindfulness of death. In the West, death is a taboo. We hide it. We pretend it won't happen. But by hiding from death, we hide from the urgency of life. We think we have forever to fix our lives, so we never start. We procrastinate our happiness. I will be happy when I get that job. I will forgive my father next year. The Buddha advised us to look at the sunset and think, this could be my last day. This is not morbid. It is clarifying. If you knew, truly knew, that this was your last week on earth, would you hold onto that old grudge? Would you worry about your reputation? Would you replay that embarrassing moment from high school? No, you would drop it instantly. You would hug the people you love. You would look at the sky and marvel at the blue. Death strips away the non-essential. It forces us to start over in the most immediate, real way possible. Renewal is not about living forever. It is about living fully right now. It is about dying to the past, every single moment, so that you can be born into the present. The Buddha's final words were, all conditioned things are subject to decay. Strive on with diligence. He didn't say be perfect. He said strive. Keep moving, keep flowing. The sack of stones is heavy only as long as you hold it. Open your hands. The path is right in front of you. Step 1, and now step 2, and now begin. We have spoken of philosophy, of karma, and of death. But how do we actually do this? How do we train the mind to let go of the past, not just in theory, but in the heat of the moment? The Buddha gave us a single, perfect tool. It is a tool you have carried with you since the moment you were born, yet likely ignored. It is your breath. In the Pali language, this practice is called anapanasati, mindfulness of in-breathing and out-breathing. It is not just a relaxation technique. It is a laboratory for understanding time. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, take a breath in. Now let it go. Notice something profound. You cannot breathe yesterday's air. You cannot breathe tomorrow's air. You can only breathe this air. The breath is the only function of your body that is forced to happen strictly in the present moment. Your mind can travel to 1995 or 2030, but your lungs are always right here. When you anchor your attention on the sensation of the breath at the tip of the nose or the rise of the belly, you are essentially tying the wandering cow of your mind to a firm post. The mind will try to run back to the past. I shouldn't have said that. You gently pull it back to the breath. The mind will run to the future. What if I lose my job? You gently pull it back to the breath. Every time you return to the breath, you are training your brain to let go. You are strengthening the muscle of renewal. You are teaching yourself that you can step out of the story of your life and into the reality of your body. The Buddha said, when the breath is long, he knows. I breathe in long. When the breath is short, he knows. I breathe in short. He didn't say, judge the breath. He didn't say, wish the breath was different. He said, know it. This simple knowing is the beginning of freedom. But what if the past is not just a distraction? What if it is an emotional wound? What if you are filled with bitterness, jealousy, or cold indifference? To heal the emotional scars that keep us trapped, The Buddha taught 4 specific practices called the Brahmaviharas, the divine abodes. These are the antibiotics for the heart. The first is metta, friendliness. Bitterness is a heavy load. It is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Metta is the antidote. You repeat phrases of goodwill. May I be well. May I be at peace. May you be well. May you be at peace. You are not forcing a feeling. You are inclining the mind towards warmth. It melts the ice of the past. The second is karuna, compassion. This is the antidote to cruelty and judgment. When you look at your own mistakes or the mistakes of others, karuna sees the suffering behind the action. It allows you to forgive, not because the action was right, but because the actor was in pain. The third is mudita, appreciative joy. This is the antidote to envy. Envy is the pain we feel at another's new beginning. Mudita is the joy we feel when someone else succeeds. It breaks the scarcity mindset that says, if you win, I lose. It opens the heart to celebrate renewal wherever it happens. The fourth is upekkha, equanimity. This is the most powerful of all. It is the antidote to clinging. It is the vast, spacious balance that accepts things as they are. It is the mind that says, this pleasure will pass. This pain will pass. It is the calm in the center of the cyclone. When you practice these 4, you are rewiring your emotional nervous system. You are washing the old stains out of the cloth of your mind, making it ready to be dyed a new color. As your practice deepens, you begin to see something startling about the nature of your experience. Normally, life feels like a movie. It feels continuous. I am walking. I am thinking. I am sad. But when you slow down with high-resolution mindfulness, the movie begins to break apart into individual frames. You see that walking is actually a series of tiny sensations: lifting, moving, placing, pressing. You see that thinking is a series of tiny sparks, a sound, a mental image, a feeling, a reaction. Why is this important for starting over? Because in a movie, the plot is fixed. But in the space between the frames, there is freedom. The Buddha taught that consciousness arises and passes away billions of times a second. Each moment is discrete. Each moment is a birth. Each moment is a death. This means the self you are so worried about, the failure, the victim, the addict, is not a solid block of granite. It is a flickering flame, and a flame that is flickering can be redirected. If you are angry right now, that anger is not a permanent trait of your personality. It is just the frame that is on the screen right now. Wait a second. The frame changes. Now there is hearing. Now there is a thought about lunch. Where did the anger go? It died. You are not trapped in your personality. You are a process that is constantly being rebuilt. And with mindfulness, you can become the architect of that rebuilding. The ultimate goal of all this, the philosophy, the ethics, The meditation is to reach a specific tipping point. The Buddha called this stage Sotapanna, stream entry. Imagine a leaf floating on a river. It might get stuck in an eddy. It might get pushed onto the bank. It drifts aimlessly. This is the state of the ordinary person. We drift between good and bad, starting over and falling back, endless cycles of confusion. But if that leaf enters the main current of the river, the rushing stream that leads directly to the ocean, it can never be stuck again. It might bump into a rock, it might spin around, but the current is too strong. It will reach the ocean. Stream entry is the first stage of enlightenment. It happens when you see, with absolute clarity, that there is no permanent self behind the controls. You see the machinery of cause and effect so clearly that you can no longer believe the old illusions. When a person becomes a stream enterer, they have achieved the ultimate new beginning. Why? Because the gates to the lower realms are closed forever. They can never again fall into states of extreme suffering. They can never again be completely lost. They might still have desire. They might still get irritated. But deep down, the doubt is gone. They know the way out. They know that starting over is just the nature of the path. How do we enter the stream? We do it by trusting the process more than we trust our moods. We do it by returning to the breath, even when we are bored. We do it by keeping our precepts, morality, even when it is inconvenient. We do it by investigating our experience, moment by moment. We end this part of our journey with the highest promise of the Buddha. If everything is changing, if everything is born and dies, is there anything that lasts? Is there any place where we can truly rest? If the only option was endless renewal, endless starting over, it would eventually become exhausting. We would be on a treadmill for eternity. But the Buddha did not teach the treadmill. He taught the exit. He spoke of a dimension that is not born, does not age, and does not die. He called it the Ajata, the unborn, the Amata, the deathless. He called it Nibbana. Nibbana is not a place you go when you die. It is a reality you can touch right here, right now. It is the stillness behind the noise. It is the space that holds the clouds. It is the peace that remains when the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion are finally blown out. Starting over is the method, but Nibbana is the goal. We start over again and again, shedding layers of confusion until we reach the core that needs no renewal because it was never broken. So, my friend, look at your life today. Look at your heavy sack of stones. You don't have to carry it. You don't have to be the person you were yesterday. The breath is moving. The stream is flowing. The door is open. Walk through. We have spoken about the inner work of renewal, but we must be realistic. You do not live in a vacuum. You live in a world that is noisy, chaotic, and often unkind. As soon as you decide to begin again, to be calmer, to be kinder, the world will test you. The Buddha described this turbulence as the Atha-loka Dhamma, the 8 worldly winds. Imagine a tall tree standing on a cliff. The winds blow from all directions. These winds come in 4 pairs: gain and loss, fame and disrepute, praise and blame, pleasure and pain. When gain blows, when we get the promotion, the money, the new relationship, we lean forward. We get excited. We think, finally, I am happy. But then the wind shifts. Loss comes. The money goes. The relationship ends. We lean backward. We collapse. When praise blows, we puff up. We feel validated. When blame blows, we wither. We feel worthless. Most of us spend our entire lives being blown back and forth by these winds. We are like leaves in a storm, spinning dizzily, hopping for a moment of calm. The Buddha's teaching on renewal is not about stopping the wind. You cannot stop the world from blaming you. You cannot stop the economy from shifting. Renewal is about growing deep roots. When you practice the Dhamma, you become like a mountain, not a leaf. The wind of blame hits the mountain. The mountain does not move. The wind of praise hits the mountain. The mountain does not move. You say to yourself, "This is just wind. It arises and it passes. It does not define who I am." When you are no longer afraid of the loss and no longer addicted to the gain, you are free. You can start over in any weather. There is a dangerous myth in spiritual circles. It is the myth of the lone wolf. We think, I will go into my room, I will meditate, I will fix myself, and then I will come out perfect. But the Buddha was very clear. You cannot do this alone. Our old habits are too strong. Our blind spots are too big. One day, the Buddha's faithful attendant, Ananda, came to him and said, "Lord, I have realized something. I think that spiritual friendship, having good friends, noble friends, is half of the holy life." The Buddha turned to him and said, "Do not say that, Ananda. Do not say that. Spiritual friendship is not half of the holy life. It is the whole of the holy life. Think about that." The awakened one said that the company you keep is everything. If you are trying to give up alcohol, but you hang out with people who drink every night, you will fail. If you are trying to be kind, but you hang out with people who gossip and judge, you will be pulled back into the mud. Beginning again often requires a painful step. Auditing your circle. Who are the people who feed your best self? Who are the people who feed your worst past? You do not have to judge the others. You do not have to hate them, but you may need to love them from a distance. To renew your life, you must plant yourself in a garden where the other trees are reaching for the light. We often think of enlightenment as a lightning bolt, a sudden flash of wisdom, but a flash of lightning cannot boil a pot of water. For that, you need a steady fire. In the Theravada tradition, this steady fire is called the PARAMIS, the 10 perfections. These are 10 qualities that we must cultivate drop by drop, day by day. They are the fuel that makes renewal possible. Let us look at 3 that are essential for starting over. First is Saka, truthfulness. You cannot rebuild your life on a lie. If you are lying to yourself about your addiction, your unhappiness, or your mistakes, the foundation is rotten. Renewal begins with the brutal, beautiful truth. This is where I am. This is what I did. Second is Virya energy, not the frantic energy of panic, but the steady energy of a marathon runner. It is the energy that gets you back on the cushion when you are tired. It is the energy that apologizes when you are proud. It is the refusal to give up on your own goodness. Third is Kanti, patience. We want the new me to arrive by Amazon Prime, next day delivery. But the heart grows like a tree, not like a download. You will stumble. You will have bad days. Kanti is the ability to accept the slowness of your own growth without getting angry. The Buddha said, just as the ocean fills up drop by drop, so does the wise person fill themselves with good, simply by gathering it little by little. If you want to know the state of your mind, look at your words. Speech is the overflow of the heart. The Buddha placed right speech at the very center of his path. Why? Because speech is how we create our reality. When we gossip, we create a world of suspicion. When we lie, we create a world of anxiety. When we speak harshly, we create a world of fear. To begin again, you must reset your tongue. Try this practice for 1 week. Before you speak, pass your words through 3 gates. Gate 1, is it true? Gate 2, is it beneficial? Gate 3, is it the right time? If it is true, but not beneficial, like dragging up someone's past just to hurt them, let it die at the gate. If it is true and beneficial, but you are angry and shouting, wait for the right time. When you control your speech, you stop leaking energy. You stop creating new enemies. You stop digging new holes that you will have to climb out of later. Silence is often the loudest sound of a renewed life. There is a famous story about a monk named Sona. Before he ordained, Sona was a musician. As a monk, he was incredibly intense. He walked meditation until his feet bled. He starved himself. He tried to force enlightenment by sheer willpower, but he got nowhere. He was frustrated and ready to give up. The Buddha went to him. He asked, Sona, when you were a musician, if the strings of your sitar were wound too tight, could you make music? No, Lord, they would snap. If the strings were too loose, could you make music? No, Lord, there would be no sound. So it is with your practice, the Buddha said. If you try too hard, you become restless. If you don't try enough, you become lazy. You must find the middle pitch. This is the middle way. Beginning again does not mean becoming a fanatic. It does not mean burning out. It means finding a rhythm that you can sustain for the rest of your life. It is a gentle discipline. It is the discipline of the river, which flows around rocks, not through them. as we navigate the winds, the relationships, and the discipline, we need a place to rest. We need a refuge. In Buddhism, we take refuge in the triple gem: the Buddha, the guide; the Dhamma, the map; the Sangha, the travelers who go with us. Taking refuge is like coming in from a storm. When you are overwhelmed by your failure, you say, "I take refuge in the Buddha." You remember that a human being did this. It is possible. You are not alone. When you are confused by the complexity of life, you say, "I take refuge in the Dhamma." You lean on the truth of impermanence. You lean on the truth of letting go. When you feel weak, you say, "I take refuge in the Sangha." You remember the lineage of teachers, monks, nuns, and laypeople who have walked this path for 2,500 years. You are part of a vast family of people who have chosen to begin again. You are walking in the footsteps of millions. So tonight, when you lay your head down, you can say, "I have done my best. I leave the rest to the law of KAMMA. I take refuge in the good." And then you sleep. And in the morning, the sun rises, and you begin. We come now to the hardest terrain of all, the terrain of addiction. In the ancient Buddhist cosmology, there is a realm known as the realm of the Petas, the hungry ghosts. These beings are depicted with giant, swollen bellies, signifying immense hunger. But they have tiny mouths, the size of a needle's eye. No matter how much they eat, they can never be satisfied. The food turns to ash in their mouths. This is not just a myth. This is a perfect description of addiction. Whether it is alcohol, drugs, gambling, or the dopamine hit of our phones, the mechanism is the same. We feel an emptiness. We try to fill it. But the hit only lasts a second, and the hunger returns, stronger than before. How do we start over when we are trapped in this cycle? The Buddha taught that we cannot feed the hungry ghost. We must starve it. But, and this is critical, we must starve it with kindness. Usually, when we relapse, we beat ourselves up. "I am weak. I am disgusting." This self-hatred is actually fuel for the addiction. It creates more pain, which we then try to numb with the addiction. It is a trap. The path of renewal here is the path of urge surfing. When the craving comes, you do not fight it. You do not give in to it. You watch it. You say, "Hello, hungry ghost. I see you are hungry. I feel the burning in my chest. I feel the shaking in my hands." You breathe into the sensation. You treat the craving like a crying child. You sit with it. And eventually, because of the law of impermanence, the wave of craving will crest and break. Every time you ride out a craving without giving in, you are rewiring your brain. You are reclaiming your freedom, 1 minute at a time. Then there is the opposite of craving: despair, depression, the state where starting over feels like climbing Mount Everest without oxygen. You know intellectually that you should meditate or exercise or work, but the body feels like lead. The mind is a gray fog. In this state, the Buddha's teaching on virya, energy, must be applied very gently. If you are depressed, do not try to fix your whole life. That is too heavy. Just fix the next 5 seconds. Can you sit up in bed? Good. That is a victory. Can you wash one dish? Good. That is a victory. Can you take 3 conscious breaths? Good. The Buddha taught a practice called gladdening the mind. When the mind is dark, you have to light a very small match. You look for the tiniest thing that is okay. My hands are warm. The sun is hitting the floor. The tea tastes good. You focus on that tiny spark. You breathe into it. You protect it. Slowly, the spark grows. Renewal in depression is not a grand explosion. It is the slow, quiet return of light. Do not despise the small steps. The ocean is made of drops. There is a modern poison that kills renewal faster than anything else. It is the poison of comparison. You decide to start over. You start a business, or an art project, or a spiritual practice. Then you open your phone. You see someone else who is younger, richer, faster, and more successful. Instantly, your enthusiasm dies. You think, what's the point? I am so far behind. The Buddha called this mana conceit. He defined it as the thought, I am better than, I am worse than, or even I am equal to. All 3 are traps. When you look at someone else's highlight reel and compare it to your behind the scenes, you are suffering from a delusion. You do not see their suffering. You do not see their hungry ghosts. To begin again, you must put on blinders, like a racehorse. Do not look left. Do not look right. Look at your own feet. Look at your own path. Your KAMMA is your own. Your journey is unique. A rose does not compare itself to a sunflower. It just blooms. To be free is to be nobody special. Just be the person breathing right now. That is enough. So we have reached the end of our instruction. We have looked at the history, the philosophy, the stories, and the tools. But information alone does not transform. Practice does. How do you keep this alive? You keep it alive by ritualizing your renewal. Every morning, the sun rises. It does not ask permission. It does not check if the world deserves light. It just rises. Be like the sun. Make a vow. Every morning, before I engage with the world, I will touch the timeless. Sit for 10 minutes. Watch the breath. Chant the refuges. Set your intention. And every evening, before you sleep, put down the sack. Review the day. Note the mistakes with compassion. Note the victories with joy. And then let it all go. Die to the day. If you do this, you will never be old. Your body will age, but your spirit will always be in the eternal morning of the Dhamma. Let us close with a final image. Imagine a great gate standing open in a field. On one side of the gate is the world of samsara, the world of anxiety, of fixing, of running, of endless hunger. On the other side of the gate is the world of Nibbana, the world of peace, of sufficiency, of stillness. The gate has no lock, it has no guard. The only thing keeping you on the side of suffering is your own habit of grasping. The Buddha is standing by the gate, waving you through. The arahants, the wise ones of the past, are standing by the gate, waving you through. They are saying, "Come, it is safe here. You can put the burden down." You have listened to this documentary for hours. You have absorbed the wisdom. Now the talking must stop. The practice must begin. Look at your life. Forgive yourself. Take a deep breath and step through the gate. Be well, be happy, be free.